Oh boy, the Marlins drop it to 1-11, 10 games under 500 on the 10th of April. This is pretty much a franchise record, and it has not been good. We need to talk about AJ Puk. Should he be looking to move back into the bullpen? We need to talk about Sixto Sanchez. Should he be looking to be moved off the roster? Further Skip Schumacher fallout from Craig Mish and the guys at the Herald. Tons to get into. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. If you're listening to the pod, firstly, greetings, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you get your pods. Make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review. This is your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the, maybe your only listen. Maybe your only Marlins-related content you consume right now. Because I'm not sure the game is worth watching. I'm joking. Of course, it's worth watching. Don't forget, guys, there's a YouTube channel as well. Hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. It's also called Locked On Marlins. Join me in the comments. If you are watching right now, you see we have the rundown. The rundown has 1-11. The record is up there for everyone to enjoy, kind of. There's further Skip Schumacher fallout. So, emergency podcast the other day. We've now had a couple of days to let it simmer, let it marinate. And we know a little bit more. As I alluded to it on the pod, when me and Sean hit the emergency, we did it with no knowledge. We just were working from our own assumptions. Now we've got some clarity from our man Craig Mish, of course, which is great. We'll dig into that. AJ Puk, we need to talk about him. Third start, third L. League leading in walks, whip. Over 2. Got a question at this point, particularly with Eddie Cabrera and Braxton Garrett on their way back. Is AJ Puk going to be transitioning back to the bullpen? We need to talk about Sixto Sanchez. We haven't spoken enough about Sixto this season, so we're going to talk about him today. Sixto Sanchez, quietly, very quietly, has got an over 10 ERA. Yes, he may have been sexy in spring, so was Puk. When the heat's on and the real guys are out there, it's maybe not playing. So we may have had hope of Sixto, but is that hope fading? Equally, what is fading for me, in my opinion, at this point, is the Marlins are going to start wheeling and dealing at some point this year. But the problem they're going to face is, does anyone want to buy what they're selling? Boy, oh boy. Tough questions, tough situation for Peter Bendix. Even tougher situation for us as Marlins fans. Boy, oh boy, 1-11. This is a putrid start to the year. I'm going to hold my hands up. If you're watching, you'll see they're up. If you are listening, I'm going to tell you they're up. My hands are up. I didn't watch any of yesterday's game. It was a late start, but I had a busy work day today. Normally, I'll watch it on delay. I got to be honest, guys. This is a bad indicator. I've got to be honest. I woke up and thought, do I want to try my absolute best to find a way to watch this Marlins game, weave it in a work day, make it hard for myself? Do I really want to go through that? I took the easy way out. I just looked at the box score, and I wasn't surprised with what I saw. I mean, man, oh man, we're 12 games in. 12 games in, and already I'm starting to check out. For those that are listening and wondering what the hell I'm on about, my methodology, because of course I'm in the UK. If you didn't realize, whilst I have a British accent, I am actually based in the UK too, for any new listeners. So what that means is I've got a big time zone issue. So for example, yesterday's game, let's say last night, that for me was starting just after midnight in UK time. My methodology to consume games, because listen, if you know the score of baseball, it is nowhere near as fun to watch it back. There's no need to watch 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours if Nestor Cortez is going. There's no need. So my method is I go social dark. In the morning, I'll get up and I'll have the game on and I'll watch it whilst probably I'm working, as it's live without spoilers. And I really enjoy it. And it helps me, obviously, keep up to date what's going on and be able to do this show. That's what I'm mentioning is yesterday or today, this morning, I didn't have it in me. I didn't really have the time, but equally, I didn't have it in me to do it. So, oh boy, if Pete Pratt's checked out with the Marlins, then we are all doomed. I don't know. Maybe the Marlins are going to go on a run. It's fair to say, like, the quality of competition has definitely stepped up with the Yankees, like on the road against the Yankees. It's a tough ask. Like, they look at this part of the season anyway, like they've got their stuff together. They're looking like a decent group. Clearly, the injuries will kick in. Stanton will get injured, Judge. So I don't know. But right now, the Yankees are hot. And this is a tough assignment. So, we shouldn't read into it too much. But what we should read plenty, and the Pirates are still, they're leading the division. So maybe the Pirates are legit this year. Maybe the Marlins, maybe they've been unlucky with the strength of schedule. Nevertheless, 10 games under 500 at the 10th of April is almost unprecedented, to be honest. It's legendary. The 2024 Marlins start the year in a legendary fashion, and not in a good way, unfortunately. Not only did they do nothing in the offseason, they then had a PR storm around their current reigning manager of the year, and then the on-field product, not good. I shared a tweet earlier that a lot of people laughed at. It was kind of, it wasn't supposed, it was supposed to be, for you guys to enjoy and to laugh at, but it was real. I wasn't joking. The facts were the facts, and the facts were, and I put it up, that the Vidal Brujan, Christian Bethancourt spray chart, I put it up there for 2024. It's blank. It's blank. We're 12 games in, and neither of them have yet had their first Marlins hit, unfortunately. Two big offseason moves. Bethancourt acquired for cash. He was acquired, has done nothing so far. He's had a couple of, throws to second base and whatever, but, I was talking about Joey Bart a few weeks back, last week. Could he be a better fit longer term? Probably. Like, at this point, like, Jacob Stallings was a more productive player than Christian Bethancourt. So somehow the Marlins have gone backwards at catcher. Somehow they've got even worse at catcher. I didn't think it was possible, but they have. Vidal Brujan has done absolutely nothing. He hasn't stolen a base. Or has he? Has he stolen a base yet? It couldn't have done. Vidal Brujan, in the Winter League, I was getting pumped. He was on base all the time, stealing tons of bags. He's done nothing. Made a nice grab out in left field, actually, the other day. Had an error straight through his legs at third base. Even so, Vidal Brujan to me is not looking like a big leaguer at this point. And he has no minor league options. So I'm not sure how much of a leash that Vidal Brujan gets, like, at this point. Like, if he's adding no value offensively or defensively, then who could? I don't know. Maybe it's too soon. We're 12 games in. We shouldn't be overreacting. Anyway, 1-11 doesn't feel good. I've loosely checked out only one game. I've loosely checked out one game. So I'll be back on it tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. But it's been discouraging, clearly. It's been discouraging. I'm going to talk about a couple of the players specifically. But let's mop up the Skip Schumacher situation. So we get more news from Craig Mish. He's been on it, trying to work out, okay, what's happened? What's the driver of this? And what transpires is, and we knew this already, that Skip wasn't happy that Kim was moved, or that Kim left. Kim wasn't moved. She decided to leave, but she decided to leave because of the plan changes from Bruce Sherman. So the changes were coming in. Kim opts out, and effectively, Skip Schumacher opts out. Bruce Sherman does him right and says, listen, I'm going to make these changes. Let's see how it goes for a year. But as a courtesy to you, we'll remove that final year of a team option so you can assess your options beyond this year. So that's the situation. The whole Kim Ang leaving has fully disrupted everything for Skip. Fair enough. Like, as I mentioned on the pod the other day, like, I get it. Kim and Skip work great together. They did great things. Kim leaves. It's bad news for Skip. Bad news. Peter Bendix comes in in a different role. He's not the GM, but there is no GM. So effectively, he is the GM. And with that, him and Skip aren't quite seeing eye to eye on the near-term, short-term strategy with this one. But what he did say is there's nothing to do with Peter Bendix. So I think I went there where it was like, this is going to be a rebuild and it's going to be sold to, Skip by Peter Bendix as it's a rebuild. It had nothing to do with that by all accounts. This was pre-Peter Bendix. So this is a Bruce Sherman change. Kim Ang opted out and effectively so did Skip. So that's the situation. Peter Bendix is in. Skip Schumacher's still here. We'll wait to see who lasts the longest of Skip Schumacher. Peter Bendix, he's here for the long haul now. But Skip, it sounds like this will be his final year. I know a few people said, man, that's a misleading headline. Skip is out. But I think, guys, if we're totally honest with ourselves, Skip is out. He's not officially out, officially official. It's not like he's handed his notice and he's working his period. Like, in theory, the Marlins could renegotiate. I know there was some talk about, well, Craig Counsell's got a bumper deal, and that's reset the value of managers, maybe, and so he's looking to get a pay rise. Gut feel is, I personally don't believe that to be the main driver. I don't believe it's like truly pay related. I think the Marlins was always like a short-term project for Skip, and he's overachieved already. Things have changed. The club's changed. And I think this is just going to be a natural end to the cycle, a 2-year cycle, a really successful one. And a lot of people will be really frustrated that Skip Schumacher moves on. He'll go on to bigger and better things, no doubt. The Marlins will be left with a likely first-time manager that has no experience and has no roster. So that's going to be fun. Anyway, that's for 2025. Let's hit the ads. Let's talk about AJ Puk, because boy, oh boy, AJ Puk has been a walk machine. Walk machine. The question you have to ask at this point is he still a viable starter? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Nevertheless, before we do that, let's let you know about our good friends over at PrizePicks. All right, guys, PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and watch the winnings roll in, baby. So spring training is over. It's absolutely over. Baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less than and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. And guys, you can get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's post-season. Yes, sir. So all you have to do is download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Reminder, download the app today. Use the code, and the code is LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
You are Locked On.
Wrong button. Oh boy. Mid-season form from Pete Pratt here on Locked On Marlins. And welcome back, by the way. It's the 10th of April. The Marlins are 1-11. I didn't watch yesterday's game, but the box score says to me, AJ Puk, question marks, seriously mounted now on Puk after a extremely sluggish start for him as a starter. As a starter, bearing in mind, he's never been a big league starter before this season. He currently sits at 10 innings and 2/3, 10 and 2. His ERA sits at 5.91. Not too bad, not too shabby. He's given up 12 hits. He's given up 10 runs, 7 of them earned, 8 strikeouts, 14 walks, and he has a whip of 2.438. Boy, oh boy, AJ Puk. We've replaced Edward Cabrera with the left-handed version and Irish-looking Edward Cabrera. Boy, oh boy. AJ Puk, it's mainly down to that first outing. It was like the first outing was really, really tough. I feel like he's got a little bit better, but overall, it's still like it feels unsustainable. What do you guys think? I think the really interesting part here is you've got a couple of guys coming back. Eddie Cabrera's really close. Like, it feels like this is the last rehab start for Eddie Cabrera. He hasn't been good in AAA, by the way. Like, his walks are still there too. Skip Schumacher always speaks about his walks. He always seems frustrated with Eddie Cabrera. I think the interesting part with Eddie Cabrera, just by the way, just to segue it slightly, I'm thinking about Kim Ang and Skip Schumacher. My gut feel is if Kim Ang was still the GM, that Eddie Cabrera would have been moved this offseason. I feel like Skip's ran out of patience with Eddie. And I feel like Skip and Kim would have been on the same page and they'd have moved him. But they didn't. He's around and we're going to see what we get. But he's lined up to go today as well. Thank you, Eli Sussman, for pointing that out. So Eddie's lined up now. Puck, in theory, they can swap it out. So we'll see how it goes. But for me, with AJ Puck, really slow start. The walks are there. They're a problem. Feels like he was better yesterday. Gave up his first home run yesterday. But I look at the pen and I see like a clear deficiency in the pen. AJ Puck has been a good reliever for the Marlins in the main, particularly that first part. So when you get another starter back, who are you going to replace? What are you going to do? Are you going to send Max Meyer down? You can't send Max Meyer down. He's been the best starter of everyone. So Max Meyer's in. He's earned his spot. He's in. Trevor Rogers, I think, has been okay, but there's two guys coming back here. How are they going to mix and match? Good question. But for me, I look at it in Puck, the most obvious one. Get him back in the pen. Back in the pen for Puck. Let's see how it goes. Feel like it was worth seeing what was there with Puck, and there's been flashes of it, but it's a work in progress still. And, again, I don't know how the Marlins are going to play this season, and I don't know how aggressive they're going to be with certain things, like what they're going to do with Max Meyer, what they're going to do, generally with their pitching staff. But right now with Puck, it feels unsustainable. He is trending in the right direction, but I feel like with these two guys coming back close, that's going to be a time to swap them out. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And who knows, in the meantime, an injury could flare up at any point. There's obviously been like tons of injuries flying around. Let's talk about Sixto Sanchez, because Sixto quietly, as I mentioned, he's currently got a ERA over 10. So, it feels quiet. Like, we haven't spoken about Sixto having a 10 plus ERA, but maybe it's time to start talking about it and questioning whether Sixto actually is a big league reliever at this point. He may have kind of loosely looked like one in spring. Well, the results said he looked like one, but the information that was shared about the pitches he was throwing suggested that actually, if you dig a bit deeper, there's probably some challenges ahead for Sixto. Again, from yesterday, he went into the game in a tough spot and got out of it. But then in his next inning, where he came and got the final out, and then was back up, then gave up another earned run there for Sixto. It's just been, a lot of sloppy ball from him. I say sloppy, that's unfair, but he's given up runs pretty much every outing. You have to question at this point, like, is Sixto a big league pitcher? Would he be better served just working his way back up in the minor leagues? The thing is with Sixto is if he had a minor league option, he probably would have been optioned a bit like, the plan with Max Meyer, where Max Meyer's optioned because he's working his way back from TJ. Well, Sixto should be given that same, that same opportunity as well to kind of work his way back into action, but it doesn't work that way. However, based on what we've seen with Sixto and where the Marlins are currently at and etc., I think if you were to DFA Sixto now, just so he can go down and have a full minor league season in whatever that would look like, I don't think anyone's claiming Sixto Sanchez at this point. Like, it looks pretty clear to me that, he's not really a big league pitcher, reliever at this point. Maybe things will turn, maybe he will improve, but the early results and indications haven't been particularly astounding. And particularly, like I mentioned, you've got Braxy Garrett coming back and Eddie Cabrera. And if everyone remains healthy, which is a big if, but if everyone does, then you have to think about who's going to be the odd man out. And don't forget, Declan Cronin will be able to come back up soon in another, few days. So that's, Cronin, the way he pitched at the big league level, should get another opportunity. It's fair to say Birch Smith, by the way, all the slander I gave Big Birch, he actually had a nice outing in game 1 against the Yankees, came out and did his thing. So impressive work from Birch the first time he has been impressive thus far. Still completely stunned at him being on the roster all of this time, but Peter Bendix must have seen something in there. He did talk about his fastball, and so did Skip Schumacher. He liked his fastball, the life on the fastball. So maybe there is something there with Birch Smith. But for me, in summary with AJ Pug, I think it feels to me like if Eddie Cabrera comes through his next rehab start and is then recalled, that to me feels like a natural time to move Pug back into the bullpen and take a high leverage role in the bullpen. It's going to be a perfect fit for him. He tried it as a starter. It's been a slow, and he can always transition back. I know he needs to kind of build his. It's not easy to kind of keep going and yo-yo in between the two. And I don't think the plan would be to yo-yo, but I think with the depth of guys coming back, natural move. Sixto Sanchez for me doesn't look like a big league reliever, and his 10+ ERA suggests the same. I think if you DFA Sixto, he clears waivers. And I feel like for Sixto, for the Marlins, for baseball, for everyone apart from opposing hitters, there'd be value in Sixto Sanchez going down to AAA. Let's hit the final ad, then I want to talk about trade issues. And what I mean by that is, well, unfortunately, due to regression and the clock ticking, the Marlins may well be planning a sizable rebuild in the coming year, in the coming 6 months, in the coming 3 months. But the question has to be, do they have the value in the players they're looking to sell? Is anyone looking to buy what the Marlins are selling? The farm system is heavily depleted at the moment. It's ranked near the bottom, if not bottom. Depends how you look at it. But it's a low ranking on the farm system. The challenge is, if you move these guys and you don't quite get what you want back, then is it going to be any meaningful improvement? That is the question. And that is my concern. But before we do that, let's talk about our good friends over at eBay Motors. All right, guys. I love these guys. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, guys, back here with me, Peter Pratt, on Wednesday, the 10th of April. The Marlins currently sit at 1-11, 10 games under 500. Feels like the season's cooked, but there's still time. That is for sure. There is still time. I stand with Anthony Rendon, though, by the way. This season is way too long. Way too many games. We have some more clarity on Skip Schumacher. He's basically unhappy that Kim Ang left, and Bruce did him a solid and said, well, we'll remove that team option and we'll see how this year goes. Considering the year isn't going that well, gut feel is this is the final year with Skip Schumacher and the Marlins. Bad news for the Marlins. AJ Pug, to me, does not look like a starter and would add more value in the bullpen. Sixto Sanchez does not look like a big league reliever and would probably be better suited to AAA at this point. More generally for the Marlins, they've got trade issues. They have value issues. The guys they're looking to move are reducing in value day by day, start by start, strikeout by strikeout. The guys I'm talking about, the main guys, Tanner Scott, career year, out of the bullpen. Stud lefty, looked a stud, best reliever in the game. Final year of his deal. Thus far, no saves and 2 Ls. Tanner, I mean, it's not about wins and losses, and he's had no save opportunities, I don't think. The Marlins, they haven't been... They haven't had any. No official ones anyway in the 9th inning. But Tanner Scott, at this point, the question has to be, Should they have done something in the offseason with Tanner Scott? Should they have moved him then? Don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure whether there would be a huge variance in the value between a Tanner Scott full year and a Tanner Scott rental. You're in the postseason push, let's go. Like, I feel like the Marlins last year with David Robertson, for me, it ended up being like a wholly overpay, particularly because we got what we saw from Robertson, who was absolutely putrid, by the way. That was one of the rare Kim Ang L's in terms of trades, in my opinion. We'll wait to see how these prospects go, but Robertson was an absolute, he was a nightmare, to be honest. But there was value there. The Marlins had to overpay to go and get a available closer, a guy that you could, in theory, trust. The problem we've got here is by the time that we get to the deadline, will Tanner Scott be viewed as a legitimate closer, a difference maker, a leverage arm? We'll wait to see. Probably he will, but not to the degree of last year. And again, that's the point. Is Tanner Scott, by holding on to him, hurting his value at this point? I'm not sure. I'm on the fence on that one. 50-50, to be honest with you. We'll wait to see how his year goes. Like, if he pitches well, then great. He'll still be valuable. I mean, you got to look back. I mean, the Marlins, remember when they moved Romo and got back? Who did they get back for Romo? Lewin Diaz? Felt like an absolute stunner of a deal. Yeah, it was. Romo for Lewin Diaz. I mean, that was at the time. Craig Mish calling Lewin Diaz like the best prospect ever. One of the rare misses, I would say, for Mr. Mish. But nevertheless, I think I was on board with that too. So Tanner Scott could be diminishing value. I want to talk about Luis Arias because I think he is a really interesting one with Luis Arias. He's had a slow start to the year. He had a slow spring, slow start. He had a little sneaky 4-hit day in there. He's striking out more. His defense has gone backwards. He's owed $10 million this year. And what will he be? $15 million next year? 1 year of control after this. Like, I know Arias, like, things will likely get better for him. But hitting, 330 plus on the season, it may not happen this year. And the defense has gone backwards. And the control's diminishing. The Marlins were clearly open to conversations around Arias this offseason because the leaks have come out around Padres being interested in Luis Arias. The question is, at this point, like, what's going to be the available return for Luis Arias? Like, is he going to be a difference maker for your farm? Tanner Scott, I don't think is going to, return a difference maker. But Luis Arias, a back-to-back batting champ headed into this year with 2 years of control, it felt to me like if you moved Arias, it would be for a haul. You'd be able to get some studs. You'd be able to really kickstart this rebuild. All of a sudden, like, there's a few question marks there. Like, are you really going to get the caliber of prospect back that's going to, like, skyrocket this farm? I don't think so. Joe Frisaro, I mean, I need to get Smoking Joe Frisaro on this show, actually, because me and him have been in lockstep, I would say, for a lot of this offseason. Joe has been very vocal about this Marlins offseason. And he's been proved to be bang on. Smoking Joe Frisaro has been on the money. And Smoking Joe called out around Arias to say, it's not the talent and the stick that's the problem. It's the money that he's owed. He's owed 10, probably 15 next year. It's a decent, a decent contract to take on as well. It reminds me of the Starling Marte situation where to get Luzardo, they had to eat the dough. The remaining value on the contract's quite a slightly different situation, but the Marlins may have to get creative to actually get the prospect return that they're truly looking for. And if indeed they are looking to move Luis Arias, then they are absolutely, they have to. Politically, PR-wise, everything. They have to nail the Arias deal. There has to be an eyebrow-raising move. There has to be prospects back that get the juices flowing. If it doesn't, then there's going to be a huge PR and fan storm going down on this one. We'll wait to see when that happens, but Sean Barrett on the show on Sunday believes that Luis Arias will likely be moved before or at the deadline. He believes he's the next guy to go. I mean, the choices were Arias, Luzardo, Jazz, or Skip. Of those four, he thought Luis Arias. And I tend to agree on that point, mainly because his clock is heavily ticking. And, it feels like there is a touch of regression from last year at this point. we'll see how low. But right now, he's hitting under 250. Arias, 12 games in, is hitting under 250. And he's had more errors than, not more errors than last year, but the errors have piled up early. He's not looked good in the field. So regression with the stick, regression with the fielding. Not good. The final one is Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo, I'd say, hasn't had the best start to the year. And for some reason, the Yankees are his kryptonite, where he just seems to get pummeled against the Yankees. A bit like Pablito against the Braves, where every time, Pablo not against the Braves, he'd be on fire. But Luzardo against the Yankees seems to be a problem. Luzardo, I think, is interesting, where I don't feel like his value is heavily diminished from where it was. Clearly, everyone's on the clock, though, right? So everyone's value is diminishing. But I would say with Luzardo, if he's healthy, the value holds. Because what you're seeing around the league at this point is just arm injuries, elbow injuries galore. The main problem would be for the Fish, clearly, is if Luzardo ends up let's say Luzardo gets hurt now, that would be catastrophic, because that's basically, it's almost out for 2 seasons, of which he's only got 3 remaining. So that would be catastrophic. And for me, right now, this is the biggest risk for the Fish, with Jesus Luzardo in particular. If they're looking for a haul, and I think there is a haul out there for Luzardo, no doubt about it. But if they're looking for a haul, they need to be so careful. So careful, because what we're seeing around the game, Tommy John surgery now, Tommy John type injury for Jesus Luzardo puts him out for 25 and a good chunk of 26. What trade value have you got left then? If the Marlins' priority right now is to supercharge this farm, I feel like they need to act sooner rather than later. You sit on it, control ticks away, injuries build up, and your value diminishes. It feels like if they knew this was coming, this should have been actioned in the offseason. They spoke with clubs around Arias. They spoke with clubs around Luzardo. They likely spoke with clubs around Tanner Scott. Couldn't pull the trigger on a deal for whatever reason. But at this point, you have to question whether that was the right move. We'll wait to see. We'll wait to see. This time, it feels too early to make a trade. You need to let it play out. But the longer you wait, the greater the risk for the Marlins and for their players and for the return you can get. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen, guys, and joining me on Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow as we recap the end of this Yankees series equally. It's time for the first time of the year to look ahead to my favorite series, and those are against the Atlanta Braves. Looking forward to that one as they head into Miami. Maybe that's what the Marlins need to spark their season, get their season going, bring it to life with a series against the Bravos and a struggling Ronald Acuna Jr. Look forward to seeing you soon, guys.